everybody, this is Craftland again with another book review. Heather, this is Daniel.
Hey
This
guys,
time around we're reading a nonfiction book. Woo!
nonfiction, November, December.
For nonfiction November, and then we're taking the hiatus for December, so we won't be reading anything until January. Uh yeah.
Woo!
So for this month, we're reading Viola Davis's Finding Me. I don't know if you can see that there. No, we
It
can't.
keeps blurring. It thinks it's your background. There we go, right there. Perfect. Finding me.
So Finding Me by Viola Davis, and we decided to read this for nonfiction November. I pick this one or did you? I think I wanted to read this one because I really enjoy Viola Davis as an actress. I think
Who
she's
doesn't?
fantastic,
She's
and
phenomenal.
she is, and anything she's in, she's usually fantastic. And I don't think I've seen a Viola Davis film, movie, whatever that I haven't liked. So she just seems like a very interesting person.
I'm
And
like,
but,
there is like one or two, but
oh,
that she plays supporting. Like Suicide Squad, the first one is a little wonky,
but you didn't like that.
but she's excellent in it.
But see, that's my point. That's a
Oh, that she's actually got it. I thought you meant that she's in no movie can't do her wrong. And I'm like,
No, I mean more so that if she's in the movie, she's gonna be
movie, she elevates it. Exactly. No,
yeah.
totally.
Like if she's in it, I usually want to watch it whenever I know that she's gonna be in it. So definitely,
Same.
sorry, my dog's gonna probably bark. Anyway, so I was really interested in once I knew that she had a memoir, once I knew she had a memoir, I wanted to read it.
Yeah. And then for just nonfiction November, it's me and Heather. We both subscribe to a Book Olive and we love her. And she runs the nonfiction November Instagram and the whole month. And she's a proponent for getting into nonfiction and stuff like that. Even for those who are always, we could say me and you are mostly fiction heads, so, but now that we're getting older, we understand the importance of nonfiction, and we just like to try out new things and stuff like that. I'm not saying that we never did nonfiction in the past, but just like now sometimes it's good to diversify our catalog and read more than just fiction.
I was saying that I don't really gravitate towards nonfiction. Like I was saying, I think that I generally like to read for escapism. So like nonfiction is I already like read the news and deal with all that other stuff. So like when I read books, it's usually I don't want to I want to be somewhere else. I don't want to be in the real world. But I think as I've gotten older, I do have a bit of an interest in reading more nonfiction. But I figured this was probably a good place to start since I like Viola Davis. I have read nonfiction,
Yeah,
but
we've all. Yeah.
It's not really something that I've ever like
Seek out
like that. Yeah. So, but anyways, so I guess in that vein, what would you rate the book in general?
That's where we could have a discussion as well, even if it's a short one. Like, I feel so weird every single time I do like Elliot Page, Britney Spears, and then like when I do memoirs, I get so nervous rating them because it's technically their lives. Memoirs is so difficult to rate, so it's like I get nervous. So I'm like, do I rate it because of writing style? Do I rate it because of understanding? Do I rate it because of the celebrity? Like I don't know. I don't know. But I did give it a 5 star because it was like an amazing memoir and we got to know, have a different aspect to Viola Davis and her life and we got to be with her for quite a while and it succeeded in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it's like definitely a 4.5 of 5 around there. I think that yeah, it is difficult to kind of like rate these kinds of things. I would say that maybe the maybe rating isn't something that is necessary for a memoir. And I guess the real question is, would you recommend this memoir?
Yes, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of hers and you just want to know more behind behind the scenes, not in the aspects of the shows or anything, behind the scenes of her life, like how she got there and how she like, because we didn't always see Viola Davis. We didn't like, like with Morgan Freeman and everything, she got a lot of her cake late in life, but that does not mean she did not put the work. And then we get to see that within this memoir. And it's just like, yeah, it also makes you feel um hmm, like relatability is the biggest word. It makes you like see that, celebrities could be humans like us, and then their upbringing and everything when we get there to certain parts of the book.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely recommend this book as well. Not only just because of Viola Davis. I mean, obviously that's your biggest selling point is that you would want to know how she grew up, but just in general about her as a person outside of being an actress. But the other reason I'd recommend it is definitely because you get to kind of see, I think, a little bit about what it's like to grow up as wanting to be a Black actress and the trials and tribulations that kind of come with that, and the systemic issues that we have in Hollywood, and how, from her perspective, from the perspective of a Black American who is, in her words, darker, right? She's darker skinned than what is typically seen in Hollywood, and how that affected her mentally and how it affected her acting roles and things like that. It definitely highlights issues that I think that are important to recognize when you think about, just in general Hollywood and acting and movies and everything like that.
yeah, you
Um,
put it so well into words. I'm like, I have to applaud that.
thank you. I guess the next thing we can talk about is just her upbringing. I really liked your words of relatability. I think it's something that for me personally, it was both relatable and obviously not relatable. Like I could,
Yeah, exactly. It was a middle. That's why I like,
yeah, it
you
was
know,
good. It was good in the sense of like I could relate to living in a poorer household, right? I could relate to drug addiction, relate to substance abuse in general, relate to you know
alcoholism.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, the poverty and everything like that. That was definitely, it was interesting because I think what's really interesting about it in general, though, is the way that Viola Davis presents herself. You wouldn't think that that was her upbringing. You know what I mean? And I think it's really cool because it's like, here is this person who went through such difficult times, and she kind of came out on top a little bit, of all of that, above all of that over, and it just kind of like gives you a bit of hope for yourself, like I can,
Exactly.
and
But that's where I like
it's
that's where that's where I was like stuck at the beginning because I'm like, but it also gives you jealousy is the wrong word, but it gives you like a damn if I had therapy. Like she did, and she put in that word, like how she got out of it. Because sometimes people fail and they stay
yeah.
like stuck within that,
But
level one.
but that's the thing, that even then she didn't have therapy until she was, it was way later into her career.
Yeah,
She decided to do all of this before she ever had therapy. And
exactly.
just the idea that, like, despite, I really just like enjoyed this idea of like, despite her issues growing up, she still managed to have this sort of like, I want this thing and I'm gonna go after it, even from the beginning. And I thought that was really, it just pointed to Viola Davis as a person, right? Like what she exudes in
Yeah,
characters is
her
what,
willpower.
yeah, she has that herself, but with the way that she spoke about her upbringing and everything like that. I definitely
Mm,
connected the most, I think, to the very first chapter, and just the way that she kind of like spoke about her journey and everything like that, and coming out of it, and like pulling herself a little bit out of that, out of those generational traumas, is it's definitely what is relatable to me, especially.
yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, the chapter that mostly influenced me is when she was mostly upset about like when she was taking like a breather and she's like, I'm almost 30 something and I'm still single.
Right.
And like, yeah. And then when she did that manifestation, and then, I always, I always bitch and complain about self-motivation books within the nonfiction alley. And then Viola Davis in this book, she doesn't do like self-help. She doesn't at all, but she's self-helping herself within her own mentality and her
Right.
own self. That outside the book, I'm
It
like,
too.
damn, Viola Davis manifested this man in her life. Maybe I should start like doing a dream journal, start like
Right.
praying to God every night, bring me a man. So I was like, so it was funny how you got resonated by chapter one. The I don't know which chapter is the one where she meets her
Yeah.
hubby and stuff like that, but I really love that chapter. I'm like, you know what? It's true. It's true. We don't think of ourselves so much. We think about others and we try to uplift other people. We live sometimes too outside ourselves that we don't sometimes have to put the work in our own heart. So it's like, and then I'm like, damn it, this is a trapping of a self-help fucking like. So it's funny because I started to manifest journal after the book inspired me a lot, and it's like funny how that
Yeah.
happens.
No, I would say it inspired me a lot too. I really liked that just the way that she it's funny because it's the one thing I liked and almost didn't like about it is that she almost you can tell, and I think it just comes from growing up in these kinds of households that are a little more chaotic than normal people, but you tend to downplay what happens in your life. You view it as, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe it wasn't, as bad as
Hmm.
it seemed, whatever. But when you think about it and you sit down and you reflect, and I've done this personally in therapy, but when you sit down and you reflect and you say it out loud to someone, right, you're like, wow, that does sound really fucked up that happened, right? But in the way that she writes, sometimes I feel like she sort of downplays what she grew up in. It's almost like she sees it as like, well, this was just my life, whatever, and like, yeah, I pulled myself out of that. But like I feel like at the end I wanted to ask her, like, do you realize what you pulled yourself out of? Like, your
Yeah,
life could have been entirely different, but you decided that you weren't going to live like that. You had dreams and then you pursued them. Like, do you know how difficult that is for most people to do? Like,
yeah,
I feel like towards the end, I was like, I felt like she wasn't giving herself enough credit to like really establish at the end, like, I fucking did that. Like, I did this. I pulled myself out of that, and I was able to do this thing that I was saying I wanted to do forever. And like, it's the one thing that I really like wanted to focus on, because I'm like, I felt a little bit like she herself doesn't even realize what she did. And in that turn, it inspires you because you're like, well, damn, maybe I can do that myself, and these dreams that I
yeah, that willpower,
yeah,
exactly.
maybe it just takes me just doing it, instead of worrying, just doing it, right? Like,
I could the reason I could understand her in that aspect is that she's very empathetic as a person, and I think she's having a lot of forgiveness to her past, especially with her father. With her father, there's a ton of forgiveness there, and then that's another relatability because my dad also suffered from alcoholism and all of that. And then as an older age, when you're younger, you don't realize it as much and there's more anger. But then as I grow older, it's like they didn't have the tools either. Especially with like, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. Sometimes depression, anxiety, it gets there. It gets there and we beat ourselves up and stuff like that. And then, but then I'm like, our parents had that too. So I see it more towards an adult lens of like forgiveness, so like she found that forgiveness, which I could understand as well. Like, we could fight it more or be angrier, but she was letting a lot of things go. And that's another thing that like it's so tricky the way to talk about certain subjects with it, because then it could also go to the aspect of like, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. and you have to fight those things, and you can't blame other things. But you could kind of, because she does put little seeds in there of like lighter skin actresses get casted more. She puts those aspects in there, and but at the same time she kept fighting. She didn't
Yeah,
give
she
up.
never gave up. Yeah, exactly.
She never gave up. So that's willpower that I was speaking about at the beginning. It's not like a jealousy, but it's like, damn, if I had like 20% of her, like her fight sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I can't. So it's like, oh, I love that she was able to do all of that. But then it also goes to show that sometimes the privilege of other aspects and other people in your lives, because she had an amazing sister, older sister, who motivated and inspired her to think
Yeah,
more outside, and then also a teacher who fought for her and fought for to get her grants, and not discouraging or downplaying any of Viola Davis's accomplishments or anything. It's just that also she had help too. So, and she acknowledges that too, which is
yeah,
great as well. So it's like,
yeah. I mean, I agree.
yeah,
Definitely the some of her support systems helped her out a lot, and they gave her kind of like a way to see herself differently. I think the line that is it's important and it's integral to just like why she decided to just do this was, I think, at the end of a chapter 4, where she goes where she's talking about her sister, right? And she goes, still in the midst of the life shitstorm, there was one teeny tiny light, a guide, a whisper, a voice. That one
mm-hmm.
question from my Diane, what do you want to be? And I think that that really highlighted how she herself, in these beginning chapters, it highlights how she herself almost didn't think that there was a way out, and then her sister helped her realize, yeah, no, there, you don't have to go any direction that anybody else is going. You could do what you want to do. So what is it that you want to do? And that being so, like, the push to help her navigate and go through what she goes through and push herself into trying to be an actress, I think that really is pointed out well, and it really highlights how we sometimes don't like give ourselves the credit, or we don't give ourselves the ability to think maybe I could do it. Why not? And I think that was really cool to see and have her explored.
Yeah. And it's also another thing. It's because the book has so many not rabbit hole, that's the wrong word, but many like things that could come into fruition to make you think. Like, I'm like, because sometimes when we think about the past, it's not as tangible, if that makes any sense. So when you get to learn about her parents and stuff like that, and then how they grew up, and how within the generational trauma and stuff like that, it makes you understand, like it makes us understand our parents too. At least, I could only speak for myself as well. Is like, when my mom and my dad, it was their first time in this country. That was a lot for them. So, the generational trauma of her dad and her mom, like segregation had just ended a few years prior. So that's with the tangible history. Because we keep thinking, because when the way, especially how we're raised in this fucking state, like the way they revisionist history and stuff like that, oh, slavery was thousands of years ago. They make it feel that way. So reading it in this book, it's tangible that it's right there. It's right there. So it's like there's still so much healing to be done.
Mhm.
So, like, when reading it, I was just like, damn, damn, we should be more forgiving to our parents, but at the same time, it's understandable to also be angry.
Yeah.
So all the subjects the book brings, they could be, I don't know if I'm wording myself good. It's just like, but just like it brings a lot of aspects that are not black or white. It's gray, a lot
Right.
of gray.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that I was actually having a conversation about this with someone recently where it's like, I think that sometimes, sure, like we do have to see both sides, right? Like you have to see the fact that yeah, your parents did grow up in a different era, a different time, a different way of living, and also they experienced things that, affected them and everything like that. I guess the other side of it also though that I was explaining to this person is that yeah, you're right, those things are difficult, but also if you this is where I feel empathy and compassion are important because if you went through something difficult, then maybe think about the fact that do you want that for future generations? Do you want that for
You
people,
don't.
right? So like I can speak for just myself, but I grew up in a certain way in my family, and I grew up with certain things that I went through being, you know, kind of shoved under the rug, whatever. But when my nieces and nephews got older and they wanted to speak to me about certain things, I was an open door, and they were able to come to me freely without the fear of judgment, without the fear of not having someone to speak to, because I knew what that felt like and I didn't want them to experience it. So I think sometimes it's important to see both of those aspects, that yes, they had difficult times, but then also how
Breaking that circle.
exactly how is it that you can be different to the people in your life. And I don't ever like, I speak for this not in specific to race, because obviously that's not an
Yeah,
part of that. This is mostly just in generational trauma. But
exactly.
I see people sometimes, and this is a silly connection, but like sometimes people will say like, oh well, if you talk about like college, right? Like, oh well, I had to pay college fees, so why should these kids not have, like, why should they have free university and stuff like that? And it's like, well, where is that? How do you explain empathy, right, to a person? You can't. I feel like that's such a hard thing to explain because, well, if you know that it was awful and you wish that it was different for yourself, why wouldn't you want it to be different for future
For
generations?
someone else. Exactly.
Why would you? Oh, I suffered, so you have to suffer, but why? Why is it an eye for an eye sort of thing? And
Yeah, why keep the circle going and the
exactly. So
runaround?
I feel like there's always just two sides of that. We're like, yeah, yeah, you went through difficult times, but we can also be better. And it's important to recognize that in not only others but in ourselves, where we can be better. Where we can, and like you were saying, not to blame anyone else, because we can be better always. And that the change can come from just within you for someone else, whatever. But yeah, aside from that, I think that was like a random tangent I went on. But yeah, it definitely,
Yeah, the book is within that deep level where we
yeah,
could.
it really
Yeah.
highlights just, and I don't think that I went through anything as rough as Viola Davis did.
No, it's yeah.
There were some similarities, like I said, but like definitely the way that she grew up. I remember reading it and just being like, when is it gonna end? Right? Like this sadness is just constant. There was always something happening in her life. And I'm like thinking to myself, I can't even imagine what that's like. Like my life wasn't perfect, but it was not anywhere near constant sadness like that, where like
Yeah.
at one point, like something happens, like she brings up a dog, and I already was like, something's gonna happen to the dog. It's gonna die. And then something bad did happen to the dog, and it was like I don't know how. I almost sat there and went, how the hell do you come out of that like a better
Yeah.
person? And
Exactly.
it makes sense why it's so difficult for some people to get out of those
It
situations.
is. That's why reading it, that's why you have to be in the perfect headspace to read it when we go into recommendation level question later. Because I was sending you pictures because you're one of my besties, you're like a sister to me. So with between each other, we have safe space. But sometimes this book, I'm like, Mama, I can't. I was like hyperventilating, crying, and I would be like, I have to stop. I have to stop for a bit because it's like, oh my God, that's what I was going with the relatability. There's a lot of, at least with the race card, no, that I can't like relate to because, but I could relate at least with a lot of aspects. Like, how you call it, our dog was poisoned by the neighbor as well. So when she read that, it was so relatable because it was like fighting and stuff like that. And then it also happened to me, and then I was devastated when I was a kid and that happened, and then also with the alcoholism and the dad, and then the constant fighting, it triggered me a lot to my past as well, and generational trauma and all those things. So I was like, damn, this is heavy. This is
Yeah,
heavy.
it definitely gets very heavy. Yeah. And I think that really helps to highlight just how interesting Viola Davis is, how she was able to pull herself out of that and then use that for her roles. I mean, she
Exactly.
says,
Yeah.
I am a part of humans and I feel all these things, and she can understand people in a level that helps her navigate acting. It helps her
Yeah.
be able to make characters that are relatable and bring them to life because she herself has just gone through so much that she's able to understand.
Much, exactly.
And
Yeah, and she's known for those like epic, you know, dramatized scenes where, like her crying scenes or her gravitation and stuff like that. Oh my God, there's like no other. Like
yeah,
I hate when people are like she's like the black Meryl Streep, because it's so unfair to say that, because she is up there with the league of her own, and she brings
Viola
it.
Davis,
She brings
like
it.
you know her, you know,
Yeah,
like you know Meryl Streep, you know Viola Davis. I don't know many people who don't know who Viola Davis is, so definitely, yeah.
yeah.
Um, she for me at least is definitely up there. I really enjoy, like I said, her at the beginning, her
Yes, I watched things
because
just because she's in it.
just because she,
Yes,
no, there's very few actors that I do that
that
for.
do that to us. Yes,
Yeah, and
exactly. There's
she's
very few
definitely one of
actors,
them.
and she's
So
there. She's there.
yeah. So I think that one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and this was an interesting aspect. We talked about it a little bit earlier about forgiveness and all that stuff, but her relationship to her dad was interesting. And I guess, like you were saying, she's coming at us from a place of where she's already kind of forgiven him, right? And I think
I'm gonna try not to cry. Go.
but I
Oh,
think that was a really interesting thing because we see the abuse from a young age. We see the abuse towards her, especially towards her mother, and the entire life cycle of that, right? Like her dad, what he did, how he lived his life. And then you almost see like a just a random turnaround where he becomes loving and caring to his wife, and then slowly, they're getting older and these things happen until he eventually passes. And I found it so interesting to I found it interesting because sometimes I feel like when we talk about abusive people, there isn't a semblance of forgiveness. You get what I'm saying? Like there's not, that conversation tends to be of anger, of like this person hurt me. But when Viola Davis talks about her father, she reveres him almost a little bit, despite what he put her family through. And I thought that was really interesting. How did you feel about it?
that's where relatability comes through as well, because in the same point in my life, because I'm in currently in my 30s, before my dad passed away, I there was a lot of forgiveness there, and he was horrendous during my childhood, which like one friend impacted me like in a negative way, because she's like, how could you mourn for him when he was so bad in your youth, because that person remembered how he was. And it's like when I related to Viola Davis's words, because people didn't see that transition. Like, and she describes it so well in the book, that sometimes, like, they were kids too, and they were human beings too, and they were born, and things that happened in their life, like, puts them to that way. So she was able to see how life beat him up so much that he made that something switched in his mind. He's like, he has to be there for the children of his children. And that's where he became a great granddad and not necessarily a great father. And so he fought, I understood Viola Davis's forgiveness because I had it too. So those chapters were like really, really rough.
Yeah.
But there was also lightness because she had her partner with her, and how he explained about getting life insurance, and how at least staying passed away like decent, decent, and she was able to like not struggle with the burial or all those things, and then just so at least with that aspect is like, you know, I get it because that's why things are not black or white. There's like gray. Sometimes you could forgive bad people who did bad things, but we're not necessarily just one thing. And that's where people have to stop it with binary nonsense and stuff like that. But I'm not saying that because it could also be misconstrued if somebody did something horrifically evil. There's like, for example, in the book, there's one forgiveness, but it's like a half forgiveness, but I can't speak to it. But just the sense of like her brother, you know, with the sexual assault and rape of understanding it in context that they were young and poor in the atmosphere. But yet, that also is like, she doesn't talk about her brother almost at all. So
Yeah.
maybe there's some, you know, but at least with her dad, she did that. It's okay either or. It's okay not to forgive, and then it's also okay to forgive. The both are valid because I want that to come across as well. Because sometimes I'm not saying forgive your rapist or forgive your. I'm not saying those things. I'm saying that sometimes, you know, bad people could be redeemed within you have your own body, you have your own temple, you have your own self to forgive, and it doesn't make you a better person or anything of that judgment. You see why it's sometimes hard to talk about the book, because it could be misconstrued into different things, but with a larger context of a podcast we could sort of talk about it, but there's still more lingering aspects of everything. But like, at least Viola understanding, because I also went through it, I got to see her point of view, and I understood it because I went through the same thing of forgiving my dad, so those those chapters were rough.
Yeah. No, yeah, I can agree with you there. I think that it was I actually had a point that I was gonna make, but I lost it.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. So yeah, definitely agree that it was interesting to kind of see how she handled the conversation about forgiveness with her father. And I was gonna say that, yeah, coming back to like forgiveness, you sometimes it's not like, I was reading one time about forgiveness, and sometimes it's not even about forgiving the person specifically, but just forgiving within yourself so that you can feel like let it
Exactly.
go, essentially. Like let that off away from your life, move it away, let it go into a place of forgiveness. Well, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't, they did this and they handled it the way that they did and it was wrong, but I have to like let it go almost. And I think that also is an admirable way of handling it too. So yeah, you can go on either side of just forgiving the person or just forgiving yourself in terms of just letting it go,
Exactly.
I think
Well said.
that was interesting. I think that's essentially what Viola Davis did in both senses. But I think I agree with you about the brother. I think there was something extra there, and that was something that she did in that way. Where for her father it was more of a forgiveness, but then with her brother it was a little more difficult to forgive. But she essentially let it go, where it was just like, well, this.
Exactly. When she had that conversation with her mom towards the end of the book. At the end of the book, when she's with her mother, it goes to show that we're constantly learning as humans, and there's a journey through life. And maybe that's a second book that happens, or maybe that's Viola Davis is still in halfway through her life, like, or at least a good two-thirds. So
Yeah.
like, there's still more to go. And then, but at least those aspects of forgiving her parents and what they went through, it's just like, it goes to show how heavy, like you said, you put it in perfect words, is that sometimes with forgiving others, it's also finding it within finding me, forgiving your own soul and your own temple to fully heal. And that's what happens when you get older. That's why sometimes when, younger people hold grudges or stuff like that, and you want to help them so badly because you're older and you know those aspects, but they don't listen. But people have to make their own mistakes. But yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. The next topic is obviously a little more nuanced and just difficult, which is the racism within the industry. And I think it's something that we hear about, but I really liked exploring it from her point of view, right? What she experiences, because not only is it racism towards, the large community of Black people and Black actors, but there's also a next level of it in comparisons to your darker skinned Black people and your lighter skinned Black people.
The
And I really
colorism.
liked, yeah, colorism. There you go. I really liked how she kind of like explained. It was interesting because it was a way that I didn't even think about it, but I really enjoyed listening, just because it gave me a new perspective of the idea of a Black person's face that can be shifted, and you just put white skin on them and they still look like a white person, right? But instead they're lighter skinned, but they're Black. And it's like, it was something that I don't even think I thought about until she said it, where it's like, they wanted actors or actresses where you could just supplant it with a white face and it would still work. You know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
interesting to kind of see that reality of like, oh crap, that's another aspect to the racism that I don't think I even thought about, where you don't have your typical Anglo features, so you're much more Black than someone else would be, right? So you're not going to get as many parts as you want because you don't look European or white the way we want you to look. And I thought that was really interesting. How did you feel about the topic of racism within the Hollywood industry?
Yeah, no, I could totally understand where she was coming from. And it's also a tricky part where she could come at as well within her own community. The how you call it, with the Kerry Washington and the Halle Berrys, like the way she maneuvers those paragraphs and stuff like that. It's not from a point of jealousy. It's just stating like to her what it is,
Yeah.
like a fact. It's like they go for more Anglo-Saxon, at least where they could, and then the thing is we're not early because Hollywood has been like 100 years already, but like a whole entire century. But like it goes to show that we're only now making strides, especially like with the first actress wasn't able to go to the Oscars because of the color of her skin and stuff like that, back in the day,
Right.
that, she mentions as well from God with the Wind, I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, so like the colorism, it's the best way I could slightly relate it into aspects that I could kind of understand it is within uh queer people who could pass and queer people who can't, like with flamboyancy, but it's not the same. It's just trying to find a slight relatability to the aspects she is saying that are, within truths and
Right.
stuff like that. But yeah, Hollywood, it is racist. We can't deny it. Like we can't sugarcoat it.
Right.
Like there's a systemic thing there of with white beauty standards, the same way there is with skinnier people. There's different little brackets, skinnier, color, like features and stuff like that. And it should be talked about. Are we making strides? Yes, I believe we are getting better, you know, but it is a conversation that needs to be had, especially with the Oscars so white and, with that movement and all of that.
Yeah.
Especially that Viola Davis can't, not that she can't reach because she's getting there, but like at least when you do the comparison of careers with Meryl Streep and, if Viola Davis had those, powers. And then she also speaks it about it with The Help, the movie The Help, and the clause there of like with the white savior and all of that, but she was still proud of that film because it needed to be done in order to open doors. And that she comes at it with a sense of like, where she doesn't come at it like beating up Hollywood or anything, but she kind of sneaks in little bombs of like things that could be better. She does it in a classy way into where, you know, she speaks truth, which we cannot deny.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think the matter of factness of the way she handles it, it's like you said, you just can't deny it. It's there, it's prevalent, and
It's there.
she gives you instances where you can see it clearly, you know, and I think that she does that.
It's tangible history.
She does that really well, yeah, and essentially she is history, you know, herself in that sense, where
Exactly.
you know, where change and progress is being made, she is that history. She's a part of that history, so she can speak on it in a way that no, you know that.
Which, for example, she hasn't hit movie stardom as much as she's hit TV stardom because of like How to Get Away with Murder and stuff like that. Like she hasn't reached that pinnacle of movie stardom. She's getting there, but it's just, you know, you could see the unfairness of it.
Right.
But she's not bitter about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at one point, she says something along the lines of like the world just wasn't ready for it. I think it was in reference to The Help, but I think that's in general like the the reality of like the roles that she has had to either accept or you know got lucky to get and things like that that there are stories that are being told and being written that I think that we are still not ready for. We haven't well, one, we haven't allowed people to be ready because like in our fucking state where they want
Yeah.
things, but in the sense of go ahead. But
Know that whether you could see that reality as well, because she mentions her own production team and
mhm.
her own production studio, that even within Hollywood making these slight little strides, not really, because it's like Tyler Perry, Oprah, and her that have to like, they have to open the door and hold the door
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's still kind of a problem in the sense that it shouldn't be that way, like to fund your own things. And that could be with, you know, the aspect with queer stuff and stuff like that, that queer people have to have their own studios or their own behind the scenes stuff in order to get that foot on the door. And it kind of sucks
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, absolutely. I think
because like Shonda Rhimes having to fight for, like, thank God for her success with, you know, TV shows and stuff like that, and then you know, subsequently Grey's Anatomy and all of that, and then she was able to do How to Get Away with Murder, and how, you know, maybe the protagonist wasn't going to be Viola Davis in the first place, you
yeah,
know, and then
right. Yeah, no,
it's a subject that's there.
yeah, I agree. I think that like she was saying, I think that there's just there is an aspect of the reality that we just aren't we're not allowing ourselves to be ready for the conversations that we should be having. And but I think it's great that at least in terms of Viola Davis and her production company and everything like that, and just other, you know, members of the Black community who are making strides, I think it's great that they are still at least trying, you know. And I think just from Viola Davis's upbringing and the way she maneuvered that, I think that she's going to be I hope and I think that she's going to be an integral part to change in Hollywood. And I think that is, you know, having someone strong like her handling this and talking about this and bringing more awareness to it, I think is going to be really helpful to that movement, you know. And you know, it's just like one of those things where you think to yourself, damn, you know, if like Viola Davis, being the amazing actress that she is, has to go had to go through hoops essentially to be where she is now, right? Like how many more have haven't been able to make those breakthroughs, you know, and how many more really great actors and actresses out there that we are missing because the industry just doesn't, you know, doesn't think that they'd be good enough or doesn't think that they can really take a spotlight or be the main stage or whatever. You know, how many of them are falling through the cracks that we're not getting to see that could really be, like Viola Davis herself, have an impact on all of us, you know? I think that is an important takeaway for me from the book, where it's like we're missing out on people that could be like instrumental and great to just the industry itself, make it better, make it more interesting, have more stories, have more things to encounter and do if we opened our minds to it.
Yeah.
Um, I am I really don't think I have much else to say. Do you have anything you want to talk about in reference to the book, or any scenes that you want to highlight or anything like that?
No, I think we pretty much cover all the big bases and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in the topic of recommending, yeah, I say read this book, enjoy it. It was really interesting. It really gives you a deep dive into Viola Davis's life and how she became the powerhouse that she is now. And I think for all it's worth, it gave me hope. Like, I was inspired by the end of it. I was like, maybe like I can do the things that I want to do. Maybe I've been holding myself back. And then also the idea of just like, you know, taking care of yourself, you know, like your mental health, making sure that you are a stable foundation so that you can continue forward and do great things, you know. And it just also I lost my train of thought again. I was gonna say something.
No, but to piggyback off that while you're still remembering, it's that another thing that the highly recommend, and well, one thing the memoir does really well that sometimes memoirs may not, is that if you're thinking this is a behind the scenes of every TV show or movie she's in, this is not that. This is not that. This is her life. And I love it that a good 60 to 70% of the book is mostly her youth,
Yeah.
from like 9/11 to like 25, 35. It's
Yeah.
mostly that chunk. And it then becomes fast forward with her success and her catapulting off her Hollywood stardom and all of that. That's more towards all the way at the end. This
Mhm.
is the structure and foundation of finding herself in her little Viola Davis and her older, wiser self marrying each other. It's gorgeously written and paced. It's like a character study, you could say. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so highly recommend.
Yeah, it definitely does get a little rough and it does get
Yes,
edgy, and you can kind of
there's a
like,
lot of content warning.
there's a lot of painful moments, but I think the way that she chugs along through that, takes us through it, and then kind of like seeing the end result of it is really inspiring, and that helps you get through like the worst of it,
Yeah,
I think.
because it's a truthful human story,
Right.
and if you find little aspects that you could relate to, it's just gets that job done of like relatability.
Yeah, I think it really amplifies just how interesting Viola Davis is. Like, you know, I
Mhm.
like her as an actress. I wanted to learn more about her. And now that I've learned more about her, I still like her and I still think that she's interesting. And you know, she seems like just a really cool person to even know. So, you know, she was worth the decision to read a memoir from her as a celebrity. You know, I
Yeah,
think that sometimes celebrity books, they can be a little meh. But for me, I think this is one of the ones that I would,
this is a stellar one.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
because
is
at the
one
end of
that
the
I would
day,
definitely,
it's a human story.
right.
It's a human story. Like I could even see this cinematically as a movie too, of
Exactly. Yeah.
how like scenes of like it's some a beautiful black actress taking over 50 years from now doing her story
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and go, you like you could see that full circle moment.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool too, coming back to the topic of inspiration, that this thing is ageless. Whatever it is you dream of, whatever it is you want to do, whatever inspires you, whatever you
Mhm.
want to accomplish in life is ageless. These people, a lot of these actors are doing this stuff in their like 50s and 40s. They're getting into it, you know? So if you feel behind in your 20s and 30s, there's people out there making strides when they're older in their 50s or 60s, and they're big names that are just like out there and making things and doing the things they want to do and giving themselves a chance and not putting an age limit to it. You could do essentially whatever you want at whatever age, as long as you
As
want
you love it.
for it and you put in the work to get it, you will have it. Is essentially what I took from this book, that she is telling you and telling herself, telling you that do it, give yourself a chance, love yourself enough to be better and to do the things that you want to do and to enjoy your life.
Well said.
Anyways,
We're signing off for this year.
that's it for us. Yeah, that's it for us for this year. It's over.
2023.
2023 is gone. We'll be back in January because we're not doing anything for December. Hopefully I put these videos up before January so that stays true. And then yeah, I think January is going to be an interesting book review. I'm excited for it, and I guess we'll probably talk more about that in January.
Yes.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Signing off. Bye. Happy holidays and all that.
Bye. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Woo, 2025.